All right, guys, we just got back from Supers in Vegas. It was really hard for me, at least, being away from such a crazy SEMA build at a crucial time for 4 days. So big shout out to Carlos and Anthony and Rose for stepping up and taking care of everything. But let's go check out what they've finished. So as you can see, the bumper's back on, which means that the front air jack brackets are done and they're coated. Those are there, but back here, you can see the rear air jacks are ready to go. So these are in, very nicely done. This new crazy OMP wheel is in. The 6-point cage is done. It's getting its final welds put on right now. But one thing we haven't talked about a lot because we weren't sure if it was gonna be possible was the relocation of the gas filler neck. So Daniel wanted to do this really cool thing of having the wide body filled in. Because as you guys know, or probably seen online, when wide bodies are done, there's always a huge hole or like this big ass ledge or like a sunken in area of the wide body that gets taken out because you have to have your gas tank. So by moving this here, we don't have to have that crazy hole in the wide body. So now it's gonna be one clean edge on the wide body. But the reason why this was super crucial is because we weren't sure with the wing bridge that Daniel had someone else design if this was gonna work. Because obviously the wing bridge goes in the trunk. We're gonna put the gas filler neck back there. And we just didn't know if the lines or the hoses were gonna be able to do what it needed to do for it to work along with the wing bridge. So that is all confirmed and ready to go. So I'm super excited to see that be put together. We just finished making sure that the fuel is still working after all of these mods that we just did for the relocation of it. Daniel's gonna take it tonight and get the wide body put on by Tuan. And then hopefully in about a week or so, we'll get the car back. And at that time, we're gonna have maybe a week and a half to finish everything up and put the super, super final touches on it. So stay tuned, so yeah. This is so weird, dude. I don't like it. But all right, guys, so Leo's not here because it's Saturday and he's been working hard helping with all the cars and stuff, so I'm actually holding the camera for once. But anyway, while Jay's car's getting done, we're figuring out some fitment issues. Camber gang. Daniel hit us up and he needs some help with the door handles last minute, but the livery on Daniel's car is all done, so let's go check it out. Look at this, guys. All right, guys, she's down. Good job, dude.
It's not that bad.
She's back.
For one more emergency stop.
It looks so good. 1 and 2.
And then we're just going from there. Yeah, I don't know how this thing up. So the car won't make it. Make sure you have a buddy when you're filling up the car.
Is this standard on your kit?
we'll have a fuel door.
The front bumper is better.
One smaller fuel door instead of a big door.
Well, it has to be big just because the shape. Ideally, it would be nice to have a small, elegant solution, but
yeah,
the shape is so big and it's coming out at such a different angle. It just needed to be big. Otherwise, we like put the nozzle in and then like it'll just hit everything.
Yeah.
Especially the handle on the bottom because it's so big.
Yeah. This is your guys' first wide body.
Yeah.
You guys do a lot of carbon external parts,
yeah,
hoods,
stock body,
you know. Yeah.
Mainly because I've always wanted to make a Super GT kit.
Yeah.
And because, you know, we like driving.
Yeah.
Right? This is like the ultimate form of a race car, besides like an LMP car or a Formula 1 car.
Yeah.
I always wanted to make a road car look like this, but that presented like a lot of interesting challenges because a Super GT car is a race car. It's not a street car built.
It's tube frame. You can put body panels.
So the proportions are completely different.
Yeah.
So, but that was the inspiration. Just we love motorsports, we love driving.
Yeah.
And that's why we wanted to make a kit like this.
Sweet.
I'm really happy that Daniel was on board. Daniel also had the same mindset.
Yeah.
He was like, let's make this kit. And I was like, haha, you're funny. And then we kind of thought about it some more. I was like, yeah, we could.
Yeah, he told me about the project like, what, 6 months ago? And then it got more serious and I was like, well, you should have started when you first told me about it 6 months ago, because now it's only 4 months.
Yeah, dude, this is the fastest we pumped out anything. So the team really pulled through. They worked like overtime.
Sweet.
Yeah, I have an awesome team. Really grateful for them.
Yeah. Well, the result in 4 months is amazing.
I know.
It didn't look like it.
So happy.
All right, guys, it's back and we finished up the final touches. So one of the challenges we had, I guess I'll start there, is the door handles. So the Seibon carbon doors are full carbon. And it receives the factory door handle, but because it's such a thick composite, it's very strong. The fitment of the OEM parts isn't exact. Obviously on a race car, we wouldn't really be needing to put OEM stuff, but Anthony did a great job, came in and got that done. He was able to get the factory door panel back on the car, which was a big surprise for us and for Daniel too. My favorite thing on this car is not just the body kit. Body kit obviously is amazing, but what Carlos did and designed to get the Airjacks to work. So as you saw in part 1 or part 2 of our video, it was a challenge to decide where these Airjacks were gonna go and still maintain the strength and rigidity of the chassis to be able to withstand holding all the weight at 4 points. So Carlos did a great job making sure that these brackets and where they go on the car are strong enough. So he was able to weld the box that we were talking about in part 2. Everything's set at the correct height. So now that Carlos was able to configure the front area for the Airjacks, the next challenge was making sure that the Sayber Designs splitter wasn't going to intrude. So we had to modify Sayber Designs chassis mounted brackets for the splitter and move those over. Thankfully that wasn't that big of a challenge, and then obviously just cut the hole in the splitter because the Airjack needs to go through that. Coming around inside, this is the first debut of our bolt-in 6-point cage for the BRZ GR86. And again, this is now Daniel and Driven Mind's signature powder coat color, Driven Mind Gray. So I love this color. I might even change the cage in my car to this color. And back here, we cleaned it up with our production rear seat delete for the GR86. So this will be available for cars without cages or cars with our 4-point version 1 or version 2 cage. So as you can see here, Carlos and Anthony were able to configure the relocation of the fuel filler. This is just to get this to work right now, but we're going to come back after GTA probably and get this even more aesthetic looking and more functional. Underneath the car, Anthony was able to install Remark's exhaust with the turn down tip, and it's cut out perfectly and placed perfectly where it shoots out behind the axles of the car onto the bottom of the diffuser. Coming around to the side of the car, I think what really helps set this body kit and the style of this build is the EVS tuning LMS mirrors, I think, or LM mirrors. Those went on perfectly without any issue. And another thing that aesthetically sets off the race car motorsport look of this GR86 is Daniel's Lexan windows with a nice little access window. And what's neat about these windows, along with the Seibon carbon doors, is that you're able to retain the switches and the plugs, and best thing is that if you hold it, it still does the automatic up and down. So that way you're not getting that much crazy wind noise, the Lexan window's not shaking around. Daniel said that when he picked it up the first time, it was barely different from OEM glass. All right, so Daniel should be here any minute. We're gonna talk to him about what he thinks about the car and the whole project altogether. All right, guys, so we're here with the man himself, Daniel. It's finally all together. So what do you think about the build?
Good, hopefully, right? I think it came together pretty well, despite obviously some of the challenges. And I don't know how it's like, no matter how early you start the project, inevitably the final couple weeks is always going to be the most challenging. But you know, we had a lot of things that were kind of like coming together really quickly, so there's a lot of prep work in the beginning, and then it really doesn't manifest itself to the very, very end. And so, you know, the last probably like 5-6 days was really satisfying to watch this kind of come together, seeing the whole aero package go on all at once, because during the development process we were pulling molds for just, let's say, just the rear fender, and we would see one mock-up of a rear fender and we would approve it, do the body work, and send it off off to get the plugs done. Then we would see the front fender, or we would see part of the canards or something. So we didn't really see the full thing until it was ready to go on the car. And so it was really exciting to see that come together, and then obviously then taking the blank car to Aerowerkz and then have them apply the livery design really obviously brought another dimension to the project. So again, probably the last 48 hours, 72 hours probably has been the most satisfying.
Like we were saying the other night, it's like the last 20% is like the biggest chunk of the project.
Yeah, I heard it from somebody that said that the last 20% of your project takes up 80% of your time. And I don't care what I've worked on, it's always the truth. It's the same no matter what.
So we've already posted part 1 and 2, and a lot of people have been commenting, and one of the guys commented that, why is it always a SEMA rush? So you having built so many projects through the years, what's your answer to that question?
So I think it depends. I mean, some cars you're dealing with new platform vehicles, right? So if you're dealing with a newly launched car, like in this case, while we're recording this, like you look at the Nissan Z, it's been out for like less than 35 days. So you have people that just physically didn't have their hands on the car. And so if they're trying to push to make the SEMA window and debut a brand new platform car, there's always going to be an inevitable rush. Then I think then you have the other builds, which obviously whether it's the platform or the model's been out for a while. Let's say we're starting on a GR86. This was available about a year ago. But there's still sort of lead times on development, right? Once the car is now available, parts are slowly being developed, things are being innovated right now. And then again, it depends on kind of like the capacity of the work. Are you doing just bolt-on application, right? Where you go through a catalog, you order all the parts and it goes on. It's relatively straightforward. In the case of this build, despite having this car for about a year, we developed this aero from the ground up, right? So we got to go through the full design process. I mean, this started, really the first sketches started probably about, I would say a little under 80 days ago. I'd have to go back and look at my Instagram story, but when you guys finished the first stage of this build, when we did the 4-point cage, the Brembo brakes, the KW, and then it went to Toyota Fest, it wasn't until a week after Toyota Fest that the first designs were starting to be done. And then it went through obviously 3D renders, and then it went into CAD design, and then the physical process, and that just, it's a lot of back and forth. So I think depending on the capacity of the work you're doing, it could take a lot of time too.
Yeah, which speaks volumes for everyone at Sayber and you working so closely with them. Because I remember when Caleb approached me about, you guys were texting me about it, and I was like, yes, let's do it, let's do it. And I was like, is that enough time though? And I thought, like, okay, they're gonna put something together, but the guys at Sayber and you went through all the different processes, like the 3D and the scanning.
So I mean, I think from the project inception, we actually had another partner lined up. They had a ready-made wide body. So there was a path that I could have gone down where I take a production-ready wide body, apply it, and this car probably would have been done about 2 months ago. You know what I mean? It would have been a lot easier. But then I started joking and entertaining this idea, like, what if we did a Super GT kit? And then I started kind of pinging a few friends. I messaged Mike over at Evasive. They did sort of their version of a Super GT kit about 10, 12 years ago on the FRS. And so the joke started because we took that inspiration from that original kit and then we applied it to the GR86, and I sent that render over to Mike as a joke, and he's like, that's badass. If you can do it, do it. And so it was at that point we said, from a joke, we said, okay, well, let's take that kind of on as a challenge, but let's really look at the current Super GT cars, right? The GT300 cars. I mean, because that came from 10, 12 years ago, and there's a lot of things that have changed in the last decade. And so we went back and we started designing stuff, really looking at stuff. And again, like I said, it's hard to interpret something that is a custom tube chassis car that's designed for the racetracks. And like if you look at the Super GT cars from the profile, the wheel arches are almost as high as like the hood line, right? I mean, the wheel arches get really high, and so there's some things that you can't. Yeah, and so there's certain things that you just can't directly do a one-to-one like mock-up or a one-to-one sort of like translation. So you have to kind of go back. It's like a push and pull process, right? Yeah. We go back, we take the designs and we take the ideas and we look at it and we say, does it still capture the essence? I mean, there was a lot of times where we're like, it's starting to look kind of like a show kit car. It's starting to like, and so we would push and pull, and the team was really great. I mean, like I said, for me, as somebody who builds aesthetic vehicles, that's one thing, but
yeah,
I know nothing about composite making, mold making, production work, CAD design. That's all beyond my pay grade. And so the guys at Sayber were really eager. Obviously they do incredible work, but both mutually had invested interest to really do something this big for themselves as a brand, to really kind of put themselves out there, but for me also as a builder to do something ground up. So that sort of tandem, we really wanted to make sure we took the best step forward. And so
and it definitely shows. I think everyone here who's seen the car so far, we were all amazed and shocked of how well it came out. So I'm not sure if you guys can tell in the pictures or videos, or those of you lucky enough to see it at SEMA, but the car is square. So that was one of the key things that Daniel mentioned, that all the dimensions are within a certain box of limitations. So it's on a square setup. The fenders are all on the same line. The side skirts are on the same line. The outside of the splitter is on the same line. And wheels and tires are also square. So that in alone, people who notice that will know that, you know, it's kind of like a nod to motorsport. So again, great job, and thanks for having us on the project.
No, absolutely. You guys were an important part of this project, because everything beyond the aesthetics, all the technical aspect, you guys handle all the suspension work, the brake work, interior, roll cage. So big thanks to you guys as always.
This isn't the finish line though.
This is just, so we did phase 1 for Toyota Fest. This is phase 2. And then phase 3 is to see if we can get this to actually do some decent stuff on the track, right?
So stay tuned for another video after SEMA to see the track preparation for both of these cars, also Jarrell's Super Mark V, and obviously our project Silver Speed. So stay tuned guys, and hope to see you in the next one.